Howdy everybody, it's a new episode of 2 Drink Minimum today, and we are doing a, wait for it, spoiler-filled review of Avengers Endgame. Yes, I know it does not come out till tomorrow. I have seen it. I am going to spoil it, so anybody that doesn't want to know what happens, tune off this video right now, bookmark it, come back after you've seen it. Anybody that wants to be spoiled, sit back and be prepared. Wow is about all that I can say about this movie. Wow, wow, wow. 3 hours and 58 seconds in length did not feel like a 3-hour movie at all. It was epic, it was funny, it was exciting, it was action-packed, it was heartbreaking. I cried like a fucking child at the end. I cried harder than I thought I was going to cry. I'll explain why. Obviously, spoilers coming up. So, the movie starts, and we are with Clint, Hawkeye, and he is having a picnic with his family. He's teaching archery to his daughter. You see that in the trailer where they're firing the bow and arrow and stuff. And she tags a bullseye right off the bat. Obviously, just like her dad, wicked good with a bow. So he's having a great time. You can see the ankle monitors on his ankle from being on house arrest. Hence the reason he wasn't in Infinity War. So he's practicing archery. Family's having a picnic. All's good. He goes to grab the arrow off of the bullseye, and turns around and his daughter's gone. He's like, what the hell, where'd you go? And he turns around and his wife and his 2 kids are gone as well. Snap. So, yeah, that's basically how it starts. Then we get the Marvel logos going across, and it cuts to current, where it's Nebula and Stark on the Benatar in the middle of nowhere, still trying to get back to Earth. Again, in the trailer where Tony's recording the message to Pepper, saying, adrift in space. It's been 21 days, they say, since the snap, and they're trying to get back to Earth. Tony's basically almost starved to death, looks really sick. The stab from Thanos in Infinity War doesn't help at all either. So they basically are sitting there and they're like, well, hang on, I gotta get chewed. We're gonna die out here if nothing happens soon. And lo and behold, Tony's sitting there in the cockpit, and all of a sudden he opens his eyes and there's this bright, bright light. And he looks outside the cockpit window and there's Carol, Captain Marvel. So she saves them. I thought it was gonna be Pepper, but anyway. She flies them back to Earth, carrying the Benatar, plops them down into in front of the Avengers HQ, and Steve, Black Widow, Banner, Rhodey, and Pepper, and Rocket Rocket? Yeah, Rocket's there too. So they get back, and Tony's like, I couldn't beat him, and Steve's like, neither could I. And they have a really big argument, actually, about how, we were supposed to win together, we were supposed to lose together, and he's like, fuck you, Cap, you didn't hold up your side of the bargain, blah, blah, blah. So they're having a big falling out. At that point, they decide they're going to go get Thanos again. So I think it's Nebula knows the coordinates to the planet that he's on. And you actually see him briefly just before that. He's out just doing his farmer thing. He's got his armor up in the field like a scarecrow. Just like in the trailer, just like in the book. Just sitting there chilling. So Captain Marvel's like, well, we know where he is. Let's just go fucking kill him right now. And get the stones and reverse the snap. So they take off to the garden planet. Again, in the trailers where Rocket's like, anybody never been to space before? Don't puke in my ship. Amazingly, they said this, the Russos said this in one of the interviews, and some of the other online things said it too. The footage that's in the trailers is probably the first 15 to 20 minutes of the movie. They don't show anything from onward from there, but I'm going to tell you all about it. Anyway, so they all jump into Benatar and they take off to the Garden Planet. And before that, it's you see Black Widow's like he used the stones again, which is the energy signature that they lock onto. So they get to the Garden Planet, and right away Captain Marvel blasts him with a photon blast, flies through the wall, grabs him, puts him into like a figure four headlock using her like binary powers. Thor comes in and fucking chops off his goddamn arm with Stormbreaker. And the arm just drops to the ground and you can see the stones are gone. He basically used the stones to destroy the stones. So there's no reversing the snap now. And they're like, well, what the fuck are we supposed to do now? Like, and Thor just out of nowhere grabs Stormbreaker and goes, whoosh, and chops off fucking Thanos' head. This is in the first 15 minutes of the movie. And all of them are like, what did you just do? And Thor's like, I went for the head. And walks out and leaves. And they're like, well, fuck, we're screwed now. We can't do anything. So the screen goes to black, and all of a sudden, 5 years later. 5 years! And it cuts to Cap in like that, like, group session thing. Actually really funny, because Joe Russo is in the scene as one of the characters, and they're talking about how everything's different after the snap, and it's been 5 years, and all this sort of stuff. So after the meeting, Cap goes back to Avengers HQ, and Black Widow's there, and she's talking on hologram to Okoye, Rocket, Captain Marvel, and War Machine via hologram. And like Captain Marvel's off doing her own thing, off in another galaxy or whatever. Okoye's obviously in Wakanda, taking care of stuff there. Rocket's off in outer space. And War Machine's, I think War Machine's looking for Clint. Not sure exactly on that one. But anyway, Cap shows up and they're like, you know, some people just give up. We're not. We don't. We can't give up. We've got to do something. So while all this is going on, they pan over to, you see Scott Lang's truck and the quantum accelerator thing from Ant-Man and the Wasp, and all of a sudden this mouse like runs across the control panel and turns it on, and Scott comes out of the quantum realm, and for him it's been like 5 minutes, but everyone else it's been 5 years, and he's like, what the fuck is going on? He goes down to, he's walking around the streets and it's like missing signs everywhere. You see that in the trailer too. Goes to this memorial they've got near the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge, and it looks like almost like the war memorial for Vietnam, where it's all these names of people that vanished, and he's looking, can't find his daughter's name on there, Cassie. Sees his own name, and he's like, wait, what's going on here? So then he decides, okay, I gotta go and like find the Avengers and figure out what the hell's happened. So, what? So much to process. I swear to God, like sensory overload in this movie. So he gets to the Avengers compound and basically says to them, hey, you know, I've been in the quantum realm for 5 years. We can use that to do a time heist and basically go back in time and find the stones before Thanos does in the past and basically build our own gauntlet and reverse the snap. So they go to see Stark because they're like, well, we need help with building this tech. So they go and see Stark, and Stark's living in the, like some little cabin in the woods kind of thing with Pepper, and they've got a 5-year-old daughter now named Morgan. And of course, the kid's like super smart too, like Tony is. Chewie, what are you doing? Get out of here. There's a treat or something under the table. So anyway, they go and see Stark. And he's like, I want nothing to do with this. I've moved on. I'm not getting involved. So they're like, well, we need somebody else who's really smart. So they're like, I know somebody. And they go and see Banner, who is now Professor Hulk. In the past 5 years, he's basically figured out a way to combine Hulk and Banner together to create, like, Smart Hulk, which is really kind of weird. Like he's wearing glasses and whole 9 yards. So he jumps on board, and they're like, okay, well, we gotta figure out how to build this quantum realm thing. So they start testing it with Ant-Man, and it's funny. They send him back a week, and when they bring him back, all of a sudden he's like 10 years old. And they're like, whoops, that didn't work. So they do it again, and he comes back, and he's like 80 years old, and he's like, whoops, that didn't work. Do it again. Comes back as a baby, and they finally get it back, and he comes back as Paul Rudd, and he's standing there. He's like, I think somebody peed in my pants. It might have been baby me, or it might have been old me, or it might have been me. But yeah, Paul Rudd, always good for a good laugh here and there in the movie. So they're like, okay, well, we kind of got this figured out. And then Stark, meanwhile, figures out how to basically navigate the quantum realm with a Mobius loop or something. He comes up with the design and then basically comes to the Avengers HQ, and he's like, okay, I figured out how to do it. This is what's going to happen. They build those white suits, and then all of them split up. The plan is they're going to go back to 3 different time periods to get the stones, obviously before Thanos does. So one group consisting of Ant-Man, Stark, Hulk, and Captain America, go back to New York in 2012 during the battle in Avengers 1. Thor, they round up Thor, which is really funny. Thor, in the past 5 years, has been setting up New Asgard and basically has become like a hermit. He's sitting in his cabin with Meek and Korg, who are not dead. Yay! Sitting in the cabin just pounding beers. And when they go to meet Thor, he's got long hair, big, huge, bushy beard, and a big fucking beer gut. Like, totally out of shape. So he joins in too, and so the one team I just said goes back to New York in 2012. Thor goes with Rocket to Asgard in 2013, which is the same time frame as Thor: The Dark World, which nobody liked. But anyway, the other team is Nebula and War Machine are going to go to Morag. I'm butchering that name. The planet at the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy, where Quill gets the Power Stone in the orb, remember? So they go to that planet, and then Hawkeye and Black Widow go to Voromir. To get the Soul Stone. So, really kind of cool, because it ties in to... Oh, there's so much fan service, it's disgusting. I'll start with New York. They basically decide there's 3 stones in New York City in that time frame that they can get all at once. So Hulk goes to the Sanctum Sanctorum to find the Time Stone, thinking Doctor Strange is going to be there, only they're 5 years too early. Hulk shows up at the Sanctum, and it's the Ancient One, Tilda Swinton, is there protecting the Sanctum from the Chitauri. They're attacking New York. They're blasting them with like this magic and stuff. They're flying around and stuff. So Hulk basically talks to the Ancient One. He's like, we need to take the Time Stone and basically use it to undo what's been done. And the Ancient One's like, well, she does the punch and knocks him into like the spirit realm too. Knocks Banner right out of the Hulk's body. And they have a big conversation about, screwing with the timeline. If you take the stone, it'll create an offset timeline that's going to totally screw things up. And Professor Hulk's like, well, if this works, we can get the time stone back to you like 3 seconds from now, so that in your time frame, nothing's gone wrong. So she basically, and he's like, well, Strange gave the time stone to Thanos in the future, just willingly. So, we need the stone. So she basically gives him the time stone. Meanwhile, Stark, Ant-Man, and Cap are trying to get the scepter, Loki's scepter, and the Tesseract, the other 2 stones. So they go to the Avengers headquarters right at the end of the battle when they've beaten Loki down, and he's like, oh, I'll have that drink now, sort of thing. Nice to see Tom Hiddleston. They lock him up like they did with the gag and the binders and stuff. And then the S.H.I.E.L.D. squad shows up with Rumlow, Crossbones, and Jasper Sitwell show up. And they're like, okay, well, we'll take the scepter. We're gonna bring this, and we'll take the scepter and we'll take it off to keep it safe. And the Avengers all go down in the elevator, and Stark, future Stark, basically drops off Ant-Man to kind of grab the Tesseract to kind of smuggle his way into the box, so he can grab the Tesseract. They go down to the lobby, and Robert Redford shows up, Alexander Pierce from Winter Soldier, and he's like saying that we're gonna take Loki as our prisoner, and she's like, no, you're not. Meanwhile, Cap upstairs takes the case that the scepter's in and gets into the elevator with Rumlow and all those guys, and it's a complete nod to Winter Soldier. They're sitting there, and he's like, new plans. I'm taking the scepter, and Sitwell's like, well, no, you're not. And Cap, love this, he leans over and just whispers into Sitwell's ear. He goes, "Hail Hydra." And everyone's like, oh, okay. So, again, a nod to the new books where Cap was actually a Hydra agent, very briefly. But that works really well. He gets out of the elevator and he's walking away with the scepter, and all of a sudden he stops, he looks, he goes, "You gotta be shitting me." And he's face to face with himself. And of course, past Cap from 2012 thinks future Cap is Loki. So they start battling it out, beating the crap out of each other. Totally even fight, because it's Cap against Cap. At one point, future Cap drops his little compass that has Peggy's picture in it, and past Cap sees it, and he's like, "Where the hell did you get this?" And then Cap puts him in a figure four headlock, and he's trying to choke him out, and future Cap just leans over, he goes, "Bucky's still alive." And past Cap's like, "What?" And future Cap basically gets the drop on him, knocks him down, and then knocks him out cold with the scepter. Gives him the old tappy tap, and knocks him out cold. Gets out with the scepter. Meanwhile, they almost get the Tesseract. Stark's got the Tesseract and then drops it because past Hulk had to take the stairs down from the penthouse because he wouldn't fit in the elevator, and smashes the door open, knocks Stark flying. Loki winds up with the Tesseract, grabs it, and vanishes with the Tesseract, and they're like, well, fuck. Now what do we do? So their plan then is they're going to go back, Cap and Iron Man are going to go back in time to 1970, to the compound from Winter Soldier where they had the Tesseract stored away. So they go back in time. Stan Lee cameo. He's driving by the army base and gets cut off by a truck and leans out the window and screams at them. Dark black hair, 1970s Stan Lee the whole way. Really cool. So Stark and Rogers. What are you eating, Layla? Dust bunnies. Stark and Rogers basically. Stark's got to get the Tesseract, and Steve at the same time is like, we've got to get some more Pym particles because they only had enough for once into the past and back. So they need some more Pym particles to be able to get themselves back from the 70s to current day. So meanwhile, while Steve's stealing some more Pym particles, another cameo, young Michael Douglas, like China Syndrome Michael Douglas, long black hair. Steve basically calls him and is like, "Oh yeah, there's somebody at the front door with a package for you. They said you need to sign for it," and basically fakes him into thinking it's something really important. So he runs out of the office. Steve runs in, grabs some of the Pym particles, and as he's leaving, he kind of dodges into another office to avoid some of the military police, and it's the office right next door to Peggy's office back in 1970. So he briefly sees her alive and young. He gets out of there, meets back up with Stark. Stark, meanwhile, runs into his own dad while he's stealing the Tesseract, and they have a nice little chat. Howard Stark's expecting a baby, which is Tony, and Tony basically is like, "Well, I'm a dad too." Tony's basically pretending his last name is Potts. So they have a nice little chat, a nice little father-son moment, not that they know it, regarding, having kids and how to raise them and all this sort of stuff. So they end up getting out of there. Steve's got the Pym particles, Tony's got the Tesseract. So they boot it back to present day with that stuff. Meanwhile, War Machine and Nebula are waiting on the planet for Quill to arrive, Star-Lord, so that he can lead them to this stone, and they can grab that one and basically haul ass back. Problem is that past Nebula has like almost a cybernetic link with future Nebula, and thereby Thanos in the past is able to see everything that happens in the future, and basically realizes, holy shit, my plan worked, I did it. And these bastards are trying to undo all that? No. So he basically swaps present day Nebula, our Nebula, with past Nebula, who's still evil. Gamora also shows up, because she's past Gamora still, although she's still got a heart of gold, because she's not really evil, but she just hasn't met the Guardians yet at this point. So, anyhow, back on... Oh wait, that's after... basically, War Machine knocks out Quill, they grab the stone. That's when Nebula gets caught by Thanos and switched with evil Nebula, who goes into the future and to basically kibosh the plan. Meanwhile... Oh, it gets convoluted. Meanwhile, on Voromir, you've got Black Widow and Hawkeye going after the Soul Stone. Again, Red Skull shows up and explains to them what's got to happen to get the stone. And they're like, oh shit. So Hawkeye's like, screw it, my family's dead. I'll sacrifice myself and we'll get the stone. So he goes to kill himself. Widow stops him and she's like, no, you can't. He basically knocks her down. They have a bit of a scuffle. He knocks her down and goes to take a running leap off the side of the cliff where Gamora died in Infinity War. Widow catches him with a grappling hook, leaps off the side, and she's just hanging there, and he's got her by the hand. She's like, let go, Clint. It's got to be this way, whatever it takes. And she drops and dies permanently. So Black Widow's gone. Didn't see that coming. Clint gets the Soul Stone. Meanwhile, Rocket and Thor are on Asgard. They've got to get the ether. Cameo, boop, spoiler, duh, Natalie Portman shows up. And the Rocket's basically got a little injector thing, and he's going to suck the ether out of her and capture it. Meanwhile, while he's doing that, Thor bumps into his mom, Renee Russo. Again, big cameo. She died in Dark World. And they have a lovely little back and forth where he sees her again, and they don't reconcile, but they have a little moment where she even realizes it's not really her Thor, it's the future Thor, and they have a little chat and basically a heart to heart. So Rocket shows up, Asgardian guards are chasing after them. They get the ether. And just as they're about to leave, Thor's like, wait a minute. And he holds his arm out like that and waits and waits and waits. And then Mjolnir comes flying into his hand. He grabs it, and then they take off. So Thor's got the hammer again. He's still got Stormbreaker. They go back to the future. So they all meet up at... Hello, BB. They all meet up at Avengers HQ. They don't realize yet that Nebula's not our Nebula. It's the evil Nebula. So they're all... They build this gauntlet that's basically Stark tech. Looks like Iron Man's armor, like when in Iron Man 2 with the suitcase armor. And they're like, well, who's going to wear the gauntlet? Because it nearly killed Thanos using it. So Thor's like, I'll do it. And they're like, no, you can't. And Banner's like, I'll do it. I'm the strongest one there is. So he puts on the gauntlet. Damn nearly kills him. He keeps it on long enough to be able to snap. And all of a sudden they look out the window and it's like blue skies and birds are chirping. And they're like, holy shit, did he do it? Did it work? And at that second, Hawkeye's phone starts ringing and it's his wife calling him, who dusted. So they're like, it worked. And just as you're thinking, yay, hooray, Thanos pulls his ship. Nebula opens the portal and brings Thanos' entire battleship through the portal to Earth, and he opens fire on the Avengers compound and obliterates it, just destroys it to the ground. Everybody's pinned inside, like Rocket's pinned under a bunch of fucking stuff, and Hulk's like in Secret War, he's almost lifting the entire compound up over his head, trying to keep everybody safe. Ant-Man's running through the rubble, and he's like, I'm coming to get you guys. Hold on, hang on. And it just becomes a fucking all-out war from here. They've still got the gauntlet at this point. Well, Hawkeye has it. And then Nebula shows up. Hawkeye thinks it's good, Nebula, and gives her the gauntlet. Then he's like, wait a second. So it's basically a cat and mouse game. The bad guys are trying to get the gauntlet to Thanos, and everyone else is trying to keep it away from him because he's like, well, I'm gonna do the snap, and I'm gonna kill everybody. Thanks for getting all the stones for me, kind of thing. So it's Iron Man, Cap, and Thor go after Thanos. And what a fight. Like, Thor is using Stormbreaker and Mjolnir. He gets the shit knocked out of him. Thanos basically has Stormbreaker right at Thor's chest, about to push it right through his chest. And then all of a sudden Cap looks over, sees the hammer lying on the ground, goes up and picks it up. Picks up Mjolnir. Comes at Thanos with the thing swinging and just goes, what, douche. Massive uppercut, sends him flying. And Cap's using the fucking lightning, throwing it at Thanos, just kicking the shit out of him. Using the shield and Mjolnir at the same time, beating the crowd. Thor's like, I knew it, when he sees him pick up Mjolnir. So they're going at it like crazy, and then Thanos gets the upper hand and just starts beating the shit out of Cap. Breaks his shield, like going at him with that big ass sword you see him has in the trailers, just hacking away at the shield, busting it apart. And then finally Cap's like on the ground beaten to shit, and all of a sudden he hears in his little earpiece, he hears, Cap, Sam, do you read me? And then you hear Sam go, on your left, and these portals open up, and the first people to walk through it is one of the Dora Milaje with Black Panther and Shuri. Might be Okoye. They don't really say for sure. But anyway, they come through, and then a bunch of other portals start opening up. And Falcon comes, the Guardians all come through, Spider-Man, the entire Wakandan army, a bunch of, like, 20 or 30 sorcerers come through. Like Wong, Doctor Strange, and like a bunch of other ones. The ships from Black Panther from Wakanda come through. Black Panther starts doing his war chant like he did in Infinity War before they all rushed. Just epic. Valkyrie's flying around on the Pegasus. Ant-Man comes through the floor of the compound, turns into Giant Man, saves the rest of those guys that were pinned in there like War Machine and them. Next thing you know, fucking Cap's standing there, he looks around, he sees everybody, grabs Mjolnir, comes flying into his hand, he looks around, he goes, Avengers, assemble! And they all just rush, and Thanos has his entire fucking army with all the friggin' flying jellyworm things from Avengers, the Black Order's there, all of his minions, the Outriders. At one point they were chasing Hawkeye and he blew up a bunch of them. So it becomes, again, a game of cat and mouse, trying to get the gauntlet away from Thanos so they can throw it into the past to get the stones back to where they're supposed to be. So, like, at one point, Hawkeye's got it, and then Black Panther shows up, goes, Clint, give me the gauntlet. He grabs it and starts, like, doing parkour through the battlefield. Spider-Man then grabs it, and he winds up... It's amazing. Spider-Man finally does the insta-kill. He's running with the gauntlet, and all these fucking guys are jumping on him. He's like, okay, insta-kill. And he's just wrecking shop. Like, beating these guys senseless until finally he's like, after a couple minutes of wrecking people, he's like, help! So Cap goes in, helping him out. Scarlet Witch shows up and goes toe-to-toe with Thanos, and she's like, you took everything from me. Her eyes are like glowing red. And she just starts fucking killing him. Like, using her witch power, she lifts him up, and she's like fucking pulling him apart. And he calls up to his ship, and he's like, open fire right now. And they're like, but you're down there. He's like, I don't care, open fire. So his ship starts fucking blasting the battleground. All the sorcerers start making the shields and stuff. They crack the dam, and like water starts pouring in, and Strange uses his magic to kind of turn the water into like a vortex and keep it away from them. And then all of a sudden the guns on the ship all rotate up and start shooting at something, and they're like, what the fuck are they shooting at? And they're like, well, something just entered the upper atmosphere. And then you see Captain Marvel come flying in, starts just destroying Thanos' ship. She's got the short hair now and everything. So Thanos, I don't even remember how it happens, but he winds up with the gauntlet. And Captain Marvel comes out of nowhere, grabs the gauntlet, and trying to pull it off his hand. And he's like trying to punch her, and her binary powers just like doesn't. He might as well be hitting air. Until he finally pulls the Power Stone out of the gauntlet and just goes, what, boosh, and fucking smokes her across the head. Sends her flying finally. Stark then is standing near Strange. And beforehand he was like, well, out of these 14 million endings you saw, is this the one where we win? And Strange was like, well, if I tell you that, it won't happen. But then just as Thanos is about to start using the gauntlet again, you see Strange look over at Iron Man. He goes like that, and Iron Man's like, oh, runs over, grabs the gauntlet, trying to pull it off of Thanos' hands, and pulls it, gets knocked down, gets sent flying, and Thanos just goes like this and goes snap, and nothing happens. And he's like, what? And he looks at the gauntlet, and all the stones are gone. Tony's got them inside his armor. And Thanos, right when he's about to snap his fingers, he goes, I am inevitable. Like it was always bound to happen this way. He goes, I am inevitable. Snap, nothing. And Tony Stark looks at him. He goes, I am Iron Man. Snap. And all of a sudden, all the Black Order, all of Thanos' troops start turning to dust. And eventually, it ends up Thanos turns to dust. Gone. Captain Marvel blows up the ship, drops it. Everything's wiped out. Tony dies. Iron Man dies after using the gauntlet. Peter comes over and he's like really sad too. Like I was like legit crying at this part. Peter comes over and he's like, no, you can't go. You can't. Like there's so much we still got to do and everything. Pepper comes over and she sees him. Pepper's in the rescue suit too. She shows up at the beginning of the battle in the rescue armor. Really cool. But she's like, yeah, you did it, Tony. You saved everybody. Now you can rest. And you just see the arc reactor just turn off, like go dim in his chest, and he's gone. Like, I was not expecting that. So, they snap the entire Black Order army. All Thanos' troops are gone. Then they pan back to the house. Pepper's there with Happy and the little girl, and it's basically a video recording from Stark he'd made in case the time travel thing never worked. Basically saying goodbye to his daughter and all that stuff. Love you 3000 and stuff, like his little saying he had with her. Really sad though, and then they have a little wreath of flowers and they put the arc reactor that says, proof that Tony Stark has a heart, and it floats off, and everybody's there, like the Guardians are there, Captain Marvel's there, not Black Widow, obviously she's dead, Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, Black Panther, Okoye, basically everybody, Fury, Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer, Hope, and the whole cast. The funeral ends, and then it's Professor Hulk with Cap, and Cap's basically gonna go back in time and put the stones back where they're supposed to be, so as to set everything right. So they're like, okay, Cap, take however long you need to. It's gonna be like 5 seconds in our time, and you'll be back. So they send him off through the quantum realm. He vanishes, and then they're like, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and no Cap. They're like, wait a minute, what happened? Where is he? Where is he gone? And Bucky and Falcon and Sam are there with Hulk, and all of a sudden they look over their shoulders and they see someone sitting over on a rock, just over a little bit away from them. And Bucky and Falcon look over, and Bucky's like, go ahead, go and see who it is. And Falcon walks over, and it's 80-year-old Steve sitting there just chilling on the side of the rock. And Sam's like, what happened? He goes, well, I went back, I returned all the stones to where they were supposed to be, and then I stayed. And he reaches into this duffel bag and he pulls out his shield, brand new version, of course, from the past, and hands it to Sam. He's like, somebody's got to take over. And he gives him the shield, and Sam puts on the shield and looks at it. And then they pan to Thor talking to Valkyrie, and Thor's like, I got to do my own thing. I can't stay here in New Asgard. Someone's got to lead, and it's going to be you. And basically leaves Valkyrie in charge of all the Asgardians. Thor gets on the ship with the Guardians, and they take off. A little funny back and forth between him and Star-Lord about who's in charge and who's not. So Thor could still potentially show up down the road, in a lesser capacity, obviously. But the thought of him taking off with the Guardians is pretty cool, because that's a whole bunch of adventures on the side that we could possibly have down the road. I mean, he could be in Guardians 3, technically. So he takes off with the Guardians, and then the final scene in the movie, you pan up to this house, looks like 40s or 50s, and you hear music playing, and you go through the window and you just see young Cap there with Peggy dancing, and then he kisses her, and that's the end of the movie. It was fucking amazing, guys. Holy cow. Like I said, it does not feel like a 3-hour movie in any way, shape, or form. The Russo brothers knocked it out of the park. I cannot believe how good a job they did with this movie. The amount of stuff they fit in here, the amount of fan service. Like, literally every character you've ever seen in the last 21 movies shows up at some point. Like, when Natalie Portman showed up, I'm like, really? Wow. Like, I can't believe they got her. Michael Douglas, Peggy, the whole thing with Asgard, him getting Mjolnir back, talking to his mom. Like, unbelievable. And when Tony sacrifices himself at the end to do the snap, like, literally, like, I've had movies where I had a lump in my throat and I was like, like that, but this was like legit tears coming down my face. It was so sad. But it was so well done. I mean, this is literally going to be the best comic book movie I think they've ever made. Period. I don't see how anything can surpass this for scope, scale, action, humor, heart, the whole, like, everything about it. I had high expectations going into this movie. They were surpassed. This movie was better than I thought it was going to be. That's how good it is. They're saying online that this movie could make $1 billion opening weekend. I don't doubt it. There are a bunch of theaters that are sold out. Apparently, I was reading last night, 4,000 screens for opening day are sold out already, to the point where the theaters are actually thinking of screening the movie on every screen for the first weekend in every theater. The demand is that high. Like, the screening, I'm going again tomorrow night with the wife. She's obviously demanding to stay spoiler free. No, that's fine. But our screening tomorrow night, for example, there are, I think, the first 2 rows of the theater, there's still seats available. The rest is booked. Solid. It's packed. This movie is going to make all the money. I mean, if this movie doesn't get a fucking nomination for Best Picture next spring in the Oscars, there's something seriously wrong. I mean, if Black Panther can get nominated, god damn. This movie was everything I wanted it to be, and more. And 3 hours and 58 seconds, and that runtime did not feel anywhere near 3 hours. It flew by. I mean, Infinity War was 2 hours 40 something. This one's 21 minutes longer, and it makes sense. Like the Russos said, there's a lot of story to put in here. You don't want to just skim through it and do like a fucking Justice League where they're like, it's got to be a 2 hour runtime. That's it. No. They did 3 hours, and it had to be 3 hours. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It had to be a 3 hour movie the way that this film is created. But there's so much in it. So many nods to the fans, like the Hail Hydra that fucking Steve gives to Sitwell. The fact that they're in the same elevator that the fight was in Winter Soldier, where he's like, if anyone wants to get off, now's the time. The tying into the original Avengers, into Dark World, into Guardians, everything else, like, Hawkeye does become Ronin briefly. There's about a 5-minute segment where he's just killing guys in Tokyo. until Black Widow shows up and basically talks him down and has him come back with them. But my God, this movie was outstanding. If you guys get a chance to see it in the theaters, definitely do it. I can't wait to see it again, personally. Obviously, you know, I just spoiled the entire movie for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, but that's on you. I warned you at the beginning of this video. Either way, I would say this is probably the best superhero movie I've ever seen in my life. I highly, highly recommend going to see it. Do you need to have seen the last 21 movies for it to make sense? Yes and no. Yes, in so much as the little things you're not going to get if you haven't seen everything. For a standalone movie, though, would the average moviegoer who's never seen a Marvel movie be able to come into this and enjoy it? Sure. Like I said, there's going to be some stuff the average moviegoer will be like, what the hell is going on? But the payoff for somebody who has invested the time and seen all the movies and knows all the characters really well, this is like the icing on the cake, the greatest present under the Christmas tree, you know, the whole 9 yards. This is outstanding work. I honestly don't know if they're ever going to be able to top something like this in the future. I mean, the Russo brothers have said they want to do Secret War if they get another shot at a Marvel movie. Like, holy hell, if that happens. Woo! The Beyonder, but of course they got to get the Fox characters back into it before they can do anything like that. But I mean, for overall, my closing thoughts, as you would say. Wow. Wow, 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 and wow. And wow. And like I said, go see this movie. It is absolutely mind-bogglingly good. Complaints, if there were any, Captain Marvel's not in it much. For those who are big Captain Marvel fans, she's not in it a whole lot. Shows up at the beginning, shows up at the end for about 5 or 6 minutes. The return of all the characters, I love how they did it without them just like kind of reappearing. Whoosh. Coming through the portals that the sorcerers are obviously making, because you can tell that they're sling ring portals that are bringing all the people in. But my God, it was wow. That's all I can say. Wow, go see it as soon as you can. Obviously, spoilers. If you don't want to hear spoilers, you shouldn't have been watching this video. If you want to stay, well, stupid to say this at the end of a spoiler review, but try to stay spoiler free if you can, if you want to. But in the grand scheme of things, hats off to the Russo brothers. They fucking did it. They knocked this shit out of the park. Kevin Feige, the entire cast, like from top to bottom, everybody had their moment to shine. Everybody had a little moment here or there within the movie where they got to use their powers. Seeing Spider-Man go insta-kill mode finally after he refused to use it is really funny. Strange, again, some cool powers. Scarlet Witch. Heartbreaking to see Black Widow sacrifice herself, but it had to be done, obviously, to get a soul for a soul. Heartbreaking they killed Stark. I didn't think they were going to. I thought he was just going to retire. And I kind of had an inkling about the Captain America thing where he was going to go back in time to be with Peggy, which makes sense. But again, passing the mantle, I was kind of wishing it was going to be Bucky and not Falcon that was the new Cap, because Bucky's got super soldier serum in him. Falcon doesn't. So that's going to be weird. The fact that those two have their own Disney spin-off show is going to be interesting too, to see how that works out. If it's going to be Falcon with the wings, or if it's going to be Falcon as Captain America moving forward. So really curious to see how that works. But yeah, in the overall grand scheme of things, amazing film. I might actually, well, I'll wait till tomorrow to watch it a second time. But anyway, so for 2 Drink Minimum, this has been your special spoiler-filled review for Avengers Endgame. Go see it as soon as you can. You won't be disappointed. If you're a Marvel super fanboy like myself, You're going to be cheering, you're going to be clapping, you're going to be gasping, you're going to be crying. The whole 9 yards. It is fantastic. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you've seen it, when you see it, let me know what you think. Tell your friends. If you bookmarked this for later after you've watched the movie, then hope you enjoyed the review. If you watched it before seeing the movie, I warned you at the beginning of the video that it was spoilers, so it can't be blamed. Anyways, I'm going to tune off now. Dogs are kind of scratching at the door, need to go out and all that sort of thing. But yeah, until next episode, whenever that will be, it's been 2 Drink Minimum. Spoiler review for Avengers Endgame. Have a great day.